Hey guys, this week, complex panels from simple pieces. Hey guys, welcome back to Alchemy Motorsports. This week, we're doing a deep dive, a full how-to of how I put together some of these complex repair panels in sheet metal out of simple pieces that I can make with just the tools that I have around. I really want to focus on using the basic tools that most guys getting into this type of work should already have. There might be a couple of things that you may not have, but you can work around those ones that you don't have that I'm going to use. So we're going to go from start, bending up the very first piece, all the way through to the finish where we've got it fully installed. Also, check down in the description for a link to the playlist so you can see where we started on Project Tallhoe all the way up to where we are now if you're new joining us here on the channel. If you enjoy what you see here, please guys, hit that like button. If you're having enough fun with the sheet metal shenanigans, please go ahead and subscribe. Tell your friends. We appreciate any help you can give to building the channel. Anyway guys, let's get stuck into that corner. Alright guys, this time I thought I'd try and give a little bit more in-depth detail of really the step-by-step I try to go through to build these complex shapes with simple tools and simple pieces. So I've got this first piece is a curve, and it's, more or less 90 degrees through a slow curve, but also this door frame tips inward. So a straight piece that comes along here, when it comes up, will come up like right here. So it actually has to come along, and with the flat 90 degree, but it also has to flare wider in here. So, we just want to get a vague idea of how much. We've got pretty bad rust all the way up to here, so we're going to come up to, say, let's just go to here. And then we know we've got this angle piece that's been stamped into every one of the door sills. So we know we're going to come to there. Doesn't matter if we're a little long, just we're going to come to there as we do this. So just trying to get kind of a feel for it. Obviously it's not going to be great. So I've got something like 10 inches. So we'll just call it 10 and a half. And then, if we consider this to be how wide it is the whole way, because we do just have to kind of make a guess, that's 3/4 of an inch there. Up here, it's really about 5/8, but it also has that taper in. So, honestly, we might be best served by just starting with 1.5 inches, and that gives us plenty of meat to come in. That gives us 3/4 of an inch we can take out of it to work our way up to this angle with the flat curve. So we'll cut a piece that big to start. Alright. So we've got our initial strip cut. It's just a random chunk of scrap cut from more of the Travelall, the way I've been doing. So first step, obviously, we need to get our curve into it. Here you can really get a feel for how much change there is in that. And so that's really about how much we need to cut off down here in order to get it to fit up there. So we're looking at about 1/4 of an inch. It needs to start here, which is where it first runs into the lip here. Really, I think that lip is sticking out a bit, so We may actually need to make an adjustment here first before we do anything else. This and this are not lined up. Alright, so we've got the curve fitted properly now. So really, we need to get this upper section to fit properly now. So that's more than a quarter. What is this down here? So that's a half there. Alright, to get a better feel, I really feel like this rust here needs to go real quick. Okay. So really, that changes. I think that's still pretty true. From there, and take off. If I go from this point and take off ½ an inch up at the top and draw a straight line down through it, I should give me a good start, even if it's not perfect. So we colored in the black mark so we could scribe a line, which hopefully you can see there. I was able to scribe most of it with a ruler, and then I just sort of free-handed this last section. Hopefully it'll be close enough to straight we can work with it. But that being gone should let us slip this in that much farther and be that much closer to everything fitting. I'm sure this won't be the only cut, but that's where we're going to start. So we made our cut. Looking at it here, we definitely need to bring that cut down farther, but I also think the entire cut needs to come in and then go down farther. So I think I'm going to take maybe another 1/8 of an inch off, and I'm going to bring it out to here. So let's try that. So you still need to slope this off a bit more. Alright, well, that piece there looks like it's fitting pretty good across the board. What we're going to do next is finish taking off the lip where it's bad, here, and then I'll cut a piece that can run down in there. Alright, that seems pretty consistent all the way through, except right up here where I've actually tweaked this, just doing that. So I think that's good. The next thing we're going to need is a piece that can make the entire turn down here. So we'll get something cut. We'll probably cut it quite large, because then we can just kind of weld it in here, cut it off around, and weld it all in from the back. But that's our next step, so we'll get that piece cut. So this is the shape that we came up with. And really, all it is big enough to fit those two together. So if we put that in, we can just take this piece and basically jam it in there behind it somewhere. And then looking at all this, to get it all to line up the way we want, oh, that hurt. I just stabbed my finger on a sharp part. Ow. There. Fix that. This needs to get some of that same angle bent into it. Alright, so there is still some more fitting we need to do to this piece to really get it all together nicely. So we're going to try and do some more of that. But a black marker is not going to tell me anything. All right, so we've got those two pieces fitting together pretty nicely. Let's see if we can show you that. They're still not perfect, but weld can take care of the rest, honestly. So when I have that in place, you can see that it's fitting together pretty nicely, and that when it's held in the proper place, it fits the curve fairly well. So I'll really hold those two pieces in place. So I'll really get those two pieces held right in place where I want them. And then tack that all together. And then we will have to mark where this gets cut back to, because this is all still too wide. So let's get those tacked together real quick. All right. So you can see we've got a lot of extra along the back there, but it doesn't really matter. All that matters is we've got plenty to form our door sill lip here. Okay, those are tack welded. Ow, a bit warm. But we can also get everything slid right back into place right where it was every time with that lip on it. So it's actually pretty nice. That's a better way than I've been doing it, I think. Alright, so next step, shape this to its proper shape so we can start fitting in the next row of pieces, basically. So down here at the base of its curve, it gets to about 3/4 of an inch wide. And we're just going to make this 3/4 of an inch wide from there on out. Alright, that looks pretty fantastic there. But I think we just need to come back a little bit on all of the black line. Ow. Alright, we're still a bit wide through there. Alright, I think that's going to do it for that. There's a lot of damage right through here. So I honestly think that my best bet is probably just to basically come across it that way and just replace that whole lower section. With how much damage I have in here and how much damage I have through here, there's probably quite a bit of pitting on the back of this. Plus that means I can just make one straight cut across here and not try to get too cute with anything. I do have a bit of a lip right there, but I think it's small enough I can probably just hammer it into one flat piece that goes across there. And then I've got that comes down, and I'll really need to look. I kind of think it just comes across straight and this kind of just tapers out. I'll have to really look at how that's built on the other doors so that I can repeat it. But I think I'll do what I've done on at least the last door, where I put in a piece that fills in this section. So that's my flat cap where everything else has to come down and join into that. So we'll need to get a piece cut for that. Looking at something probably like 2 inches. Yeah, 2 inches would probably do it. 2 inches is actually even a bit much over here. So maybe we'll just go with 1 inch and... what do I have down here? Let's go with 1.5 inches. But it's on a pretty severe angle. So it's going to be 1.5 inches by probably like 5 inches. Yeah, if I do like 1.5 inches by 5 inches, that will probably be plenty for that strip to cut it into the angles it's going to need. We've cut our next piece. Obviously, it's running into that, so it needs to have a slope added to it. And by lining it up with this existing edge. I get an idea of where that needs to be. Alright, so that should give us enough that I can actually line this up and really true it up. Alright, we've got that fitting pretty nicely. Maybe put just a bit of a curve into that corner right there. So we just tapped that. You can see the little bit of curve I put into it. I just tapped it against a curved part of my vise to actually get that. So nothing too serious. And then I think we're probably going to hammer along this lip just a little bit to stretch it out and down just a bit. Okay, we're just going to go ahead and get this piece tacked in place. So I believe this line comes down at that angle, but then just comes straight across. So if we work off of that theory here, we end up with connecting. So with this line here, we kind of have a reference to start building these. This has a curve in this direction, and it's curved in this direction. So it has almost a slight bowl shape to it that I definitely do not have the skills to just make a piece. So I did the last one. How I'll do this one is triangles are very easy to bend, so you get one big radius on one and no change at the other. So I'll probably do a triangle like that, and then if that's one triangle, maybe the next one will look kind of like that. 2, 3, 4, I'm not really sure. Triangles to start building in that curve. That's the best way I've found to do it for myself. You know what though? We're gonna try something different. I'm gonna try making a tape template just to see if I can lay out that template and understand this shape better two-dimensionally. So we're gonna go ahead and give a different technique a try. never tried building one of these tape templates before, so let's see what we can do with that. Alright, looks like we lost a little bit of this structure there. Oh well, I think we've still got everything that we need. So I'm going to cut this apart and see if we can figure out how to make these two pieces. Let's see what happens. So we cut those two pieces apart, and they laid out decently flat, so hopefully maybe from here I can create these shapes. So we're going to get those two cut out and then see what we can do with them. So I've just been tweaking on this one. A bit of a bend here, a tweak there, a little bit of flattening across there, until I've got a fit that I think is actually surprisingly decent. It's low down here, but I think that's okay. If I weld this seam all along there and I weld that point in, then I can do the final fitting on this piece. All that will leave is this low spot, which after I weld in this and all of this is welded, I should be able to tap that spot up and just get a nice smooth curved flow between all of those. So I think that should work out fine in that regard. So I need to weld that piece in. Putting that slice in will help me get hopefully help me get just a little bit of extra curve that I need from this. Alright, let's get this last piece fitted up. If I just match them up exactly, it's not really great. But if I slump that one down a bit, it gives me a different cut line. Where'd my marker go? Well, first thing, I think I want to try to tap that slope. I just rehammered this again. I had to move it out slightly, but I think it will be potentially better there. Okay, that actually fixed quite a bit of that. That's pretty good now. So I've just got a few other tweaks to make here. Damn it. I didn't want to break it all the way off. Oh well, starting over. Got a little bit of overlap down in there, so I'm just gonna carve that out and try to tap that up. So I hammered those corners till they came up basically flush. Let's see what our fitment looks like. I think we'll have to pull on this when we weld it all together. But otherwise, I think we're going to call that good enough. Completed patch. There's going to be obviously all the welding. We have some overlaps like right there that I'll grind off just a little bit, weld everything up and cut this back away, and I think we will have what just might be a highly successful piece. I'm actually really happy with how that worked out. Let's give this a quick close the door test just to see what happens. It may not clear just because it's not even welded in up here, but let's give this a quick door test just to see. I can't really tell, but I think it's alright. We're gonna roll with it. So, next up is just grinding and welding on this piece, and it will be ready to go basically. And then we will be ready to install the sill repair. Next up will be welding and grinding this piece. Once that's all done, we'll be ready to just go ahead and perform the full sill repair. We can cut all of this out as we do that. And then additionally, once it's all welded in, I need to weld in that, maybe weld a little bit along the back here. And then we'll be ready to put this patch in. Building that patch should be pretty easy though, as it's more or less just a curve. No special shapes to it or anything. Now that we've got the primary welding all done, I'm going to do some welding along the back here in a few places that I think could use it. And then we will shape this back edge, which you can see is still far too big. Actually, we'll probably do that in reverse order. I'll cut that down, and then we will just go along there with weld. You can see on the back side of this piece, that line of welds that I have, which sort of defines the whole curve. So what I will do is I will cut along that line, leaving me just a little bit of space, and then I'll come back with a sanding disc and just sort of grind down till I get a nice clean fit. Alright, so you can see now there's a little bit of lip left along here, but that's all pretty much cut down to shape. So we'll just get that ground down and finished. Just using an air sander with pretty heavy, I think this is 36 grit. Alright, we've got that all shaped up. I'm going to put some weld along this back corner just to make sure there's plenty of meat that I can come in and cut weld out of this front corner to create a nice transition between the two. So these are the primary tools that I'll use to clean back the weld. This is just a regular cutting disc, a flap wheel. This is an actual grinding wheel, but you can see as they wear down, it's got that curve on it that's sometimes useful. A really small cutoff wheel that gets used on the air sander as well as the air sander with the rough grit. I've done a lot with just a grinder using the edge of a cutoff wheel carefully and a flap disc. You can get pretty far with just those, but with the additional tools, you can just end up with a little bit finer finish. I also have that finger sander that I've used in other videos that may get used just to touch up some small corners. The nice thing about a flap disc is they give you a really nice finish, but the feel on them is kind of vague, so it's easy to overgrind. These will give you a much rougher finish, but you have really good control. And the nice thing about this is the speed is controllable, so I can use an aggressive disc at a really low speed and just slowly file away. And then this can also give you a pretty decent finish, but also do a lot of heavy cutting. So those are what I'll be using to actually grind these welds back down. You can see it's also fully welded across the back. I'll grind these down somewhat, but for the most part, everything you see back here, except for where it matters on lining up the door sill along this edge, will pretty much stay there as extra meat. Alright, so there is the finished patch, all cleaned up. Cut a couple of spot welds down in the bottom. So, next step, I've also brushed and cleaned everything, but the next step is going to be to prime this backside, and then it is ready for install. So we need to grind that back. At some point we'll need to come in here, which you can barely see, and do some welding in those to spot weld all of that together, but the shape itself seems good. And there's that, all finish installed. I didn't grind that back because I'm pretty sure I'm going to be cutting that weld again, so it just didn't matter. Well guys, that's it for this week. I didn't go into the fine details of really installing that corner piece. I did record a bunch of that. I do have it in time lapse, and that'll show up in next week's episode where we try and wrap up all the rest of this rust repair. I hope you found some useful tips in there. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next time.